Okay, greetings and welcome back. So I did mention that we are going to fix this. So we're going to make the layout of this a little more presentable. All right, so we're going to take this approach. So far we just have one panel working with. What we're going to be doing, we're going to be putting the buttons on one panel, and we're going to be putting the labels and our text fields on another panel. And then we are going to be adjusting the layout accordingly. So let's create those other two panels. As you can see here, this is what we are going to do. So we have one main panel that is running in the background, and then we're going to create a second one and also a third one. Then we're going to add each of them to the first one. All right, after which we will add the first one now. The first one is what we would have added to the frame already. So we just need to create these two and add them. All right, so let's see how it's done. And I can guarantee you that this will make your application look far more presentable. All right, so I'm going to create our panels, and J panel it's going to be, so I need one for, I call one the data panel. One is going to be for the button. And just like the other components, you have to create instances. So data panel, go to new J panel, and button panel, equal to new J panel. All right. So this is what we're gonna do. So we're gonna add the labels. The labels and text fields are gonna be added to the data panel. So I'm just gonna say data panel dot add. All right, so I'm just gonna just add this to it. So it's the data panel that we are putting these on. All right, the buttons now. I'm gonna add the buttons to the button panel. All right. All right, so let's see what it looks like now. Don't get scared. All right, but here's what we have. It might be blank. Yeah, it is blank, just like that. Yes, because we have not added these new panels. All right. So we now have two different panels. So we have the data panel and we have the button panel. All right. So first things first, we are going to set the layout of the data panel. So we need two columns and we need about 3 rows. All right, I'm gonna put about 5 rows. And we also need for the button panel, we're gonna use 1 row, 3 columns to have the data displayed across. All right, so the layout manager provided by Java really help us to easily organize the information on our panels. All right. So the first layout I'm going to set is for the data panel. All right. So right here, I'll say data panel. Let's set layout. All right. And it's going to be a new grid layout. I'm going to use, can use 5 rows, 2 columns. We can adjust it if we don't like it that way. And the next panel is the button panel. That's the button panel. Set layout. It's going to be new grid layout. It's going to be 1 row, 3 columns. 3 columns because they have 3 buttons. All right. All right. So if we run the application now, it will still be blank because we have not yet added the panel. So we just need to add we need to add the data panel. And we also need to add the button panel. All right, so we are adding these 2 panels. So this one has the text fields and the labels. This one has just the buttons. Right, so let's run and see what it looks like. All right, already it's looking much better, as you can see here. All right. So there it is. So it's much more, it's looking much better in terms of how it is organized. All right, so let's work with it like that for now. All right, so there are other arrangements that we could have made, but let's keep it like that for now. All right, good. Just let's look back at what we did. So we created 2 additional panels. We have one for the data, and we have one for the buttons. All right. So as it is now, we have a much better presentation. Good. All right. So thank you for viewing. So far we have done, we have looked at how to add data from the Java application into our database. All right. So when we return on our next in our next video, we are going to look at another feature. All right. So we are going to look at how we may go about searching for data and updating our data. All right, so we're going to look at these as other features that would be very much useful. All right, so stay tuned. Right. So in our previous video, we would have looked at how to add the layout to get our data in a better represented on the screen. So now we are going to look at how to view all the information that we have stored in our database. All right, so if we do a query, run a query like a select query here, you notice that we're seeing 3 different records, all right, for Flames. All right, so we're going to look at how we can get something like this displayed in our Java program. So to do this, we are just going to create another panel, and we're going to be adding a text here that we're going to be displaying the data into. There are other options, so we could use like a JTable, but we're just going to use the text here for now, and then other links will be provided. All right, so I'm going to create another class, and this one I'm going to call it ViewFrame. All right, so the ViewFrame is going to be similar to in some way to the add film, because of course it's going to be a J panel as well. All right. So we can actually just copy these. So the view film is going to be add film. We're going to have view film. All right. And I'm just going to create a text here that we're going to be adding. So it's going to be a JText here. I'm going to call it display here. Right. And let's create our constructor. So it's going to be public view frame. Inside here, let's create the object for display frame. Display here, right? New JText here. All right. You can also specify the size of the text here, but I'm just gonna work with the size of the window. All right, the next thing that I'm gonna set is the preferred size. So I'm gonna set the preferred size. That's the preferred size of the J panel. It was 300 by 300. All right, so this will be used to display all the information that is in the database. All right, so as usual, I'm going to add this to our main menu. So again, I'm going to have to create an instance. Let's say ViewFrame equal to new ViewFrame. All right. Let's add it after the add frame. All right, of course, this is not the best way to present these panels. We are going to look at how to really define a main menu and make things work better. All right, but I just want you to get it step by step in terms of what we're doing. All right, so as you can see, this is the view frame. All right, so it would have overridden, it just cover the screen. Both of them are there, but we're not able to see both of them now. All right. It's not ideal really to just display them like that. If you want to display more than one, we would just need to adjust them onto the frame. All right. So we're gonna work with the view frame. So what we're gonna put in the view frame is we are going to pretty much just get the data from the database. So we're gonna configure the connectDB. So we're gonna create a method that will return the data that is to be displayed onto the that's the data that is to be displayed on in the JText text here that we would have created earlier on. All right. So we're gonna do a query, and pretty much what we're gonna do is do a query, get the data, store it into like an array, and next to pass the data over and display it for you. So let's see. All right, so viewing data. So up here, we're inserting the data. So down here, we're creating a view. So we're going to get the data. So it's going to be public. It's going to return the data as a big string. So we're going to call it string. All right. And we're going to just give it a name, probably get flims. And of course, this is going to return a string. So as soon as we generate a string, we will return it so that it can be displayed. All right, so this is the idea. All right, so we are going to create a heading. That's the heading for the information that is to be displayed. So I'm going to call it string. Call it text equal to, let's put in the heading. So the first heading is going to be flim ID. I'll put a tab between, that's flim name next. That's another tab. Flim year. So these are the headings on which the data will be displayed. At the end of the day, all I'm going to do is return the text. So we're not finished, but just for you to get what I'm saying. And when I go over to ViewFrame, all right, so all that I'm going to do in ViewFrame, having created the display area, we need to add it. All right. But in addition to adding the display area, we're going to create an instance of the ConnectDB that we're going to use to access the view that we're going to be creating. That's the get flim. I can call it view flims. I can call it view flims or view flim rather. All right. So we're going to use the instance to access this. So far, what we're returning is just the headings. That's flim ID, flim name, and flim year. So we go over to here. That's the view flim. All right. All right. So this one is called view flim. I don't want to get you confused. And the method here is ViewFrame lowercase. All right, so bear that in mind. So you're going to say connect db equal to new connect db. All right, so now this instance cdb, we can use that to invoke the method. So we can say cdb that ViewFrame. All right, so this is going to give us access to the ViewFrame, which will return a string. So what we can do now is we can simply add this string to our display area. All right, so let me just comment this out before we go any further, so you can see what the display area looks like. You can see that it's blank at the moment. Yeah, so there it is. All right, so let me also comment out the a flim. That's the one that we use to add a flim. All right, so we're just focusing on this one, the text here. Let's run that again. All right, so that's it. So this is the text here. If you notice too that you can type something in the text here. All right, you can always type. All right. But we're not using it for the purpose of typing just now. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be modifying it in such a way so that it displays the information from the database. So I'm going to say display area that add the text that we are getting from the database. I'm going to say display area that add cdb.viewframe. Remember the viewframe here is going to return the string, frame ID, frame name, frame year. All right, so display area that set text, I should have said set text. So we're setting the text of display area to the text returned by the CDB object. All right, that's the view frame. So this is what we have so far. So we should just be seeing the headings. And yes, we are seeing them. These are the headings. Good. So we're gonna look at how we can modify it so that the entire database is populated. All right, so I'm gonna work on this. At the end of the heading, I want to put in a new line. So I'm gonna say /n. All right. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna set up a query for the database. We're gonna say string, and the query that we're gonna be using to get the data that is in the database is just the same query that we have here, select star from Flint. All right, so that's what we're gonna be using. So you're gonna say string query is equal to select all from Flim. All right. So the only thing is that we're doing it from the Java program. Good. So once you get these, you're gonna have 3 different pieces of information coming out. So we're gonna have the Flim ID, the Flim name, and also the Flim year. Now instead of creating a variable to store each of them, I'm gonna create an array that can be used to store each. All right, so we're gonna create an array of size 3 that we can easily store the data in. So I'm gonna create an array called string row equal to new string. It's gonna be of size 3 because we have 3 different headings. I'm gonna use this when we would have executed the query to store the data. So you'll see. So anything that we're doing regarding the database will be done in a try and catch block. All right, so we are trying and we are catching SQL exception. And if there's an error, we're just gonna say J Right, so we just display the error message in a J option pane. And yes, it's complaining because we have not we might not have imported something that we need to be imported. All right, but before we get into that, say it's command P in this case, J option P, yeah. All right, this is just probably saying that there's nothing there that would have triggered a SQL exception. So let's put some stuff in there. So the result, so RS is going to be equal to st.execute. Execute query. And the query that we're executing is stored in the text query. All right, so once that is executed, you're going to get a list of strings for our result. So what we're going to say is while the result is not empty, so while RS has an X record, we're going to loop and we're going to get the data and store it. All right. So RS currently, if the query executes successfully, that's the select star from Flim. So when we say st.execute query, it's just like clicking on the button here to execute our query. All right. So, and once it's executed, if there are results, then it will be stored in RS. And we're saying while RS has an X record, what we're going to do, we're going to use this array to store the data. So we're going to say row 0. That means in the first index, you're going to store the Flim ID. It's going to be equal to RS that get string, and the string is coming from the Flim ID. Now, very importantly, the names that we have in the get string has to be the same spelling as how we have them in the database. So it's Flim ID, Flim name, Flim year, no uppercase. So let me remove that. And in index, the second index, we will have the Flim name. And in the third index, we'll have the Flim year. All right, so that is what we're getting from the database. All right, so once we have gotten these, the next thing to do is simple to add them to the text that we would have generated earlier on. All right, so remember the last thing that we have in the text is a new line. So we're gonna just add this below. So we're gonna say that text is equal to text. So we're just appending these plus row 0. And the same idea, we're gonna put a tab between. So I'm gonna have to say plus. The tab has to go in a double quote. Plus row 1 plus another tab plus row 2. And since this is the last one, I'm gonna put plus a new line so that as it repeats, after adding a row, it will advance the cursor to the next line. And so we'll have a table effect when the entire thing is completed. All right. So here we're just adding the data to the text. Now, if this query executes successfully, we should be seeing some data when we run this program. All right, so it seemed like it has executed successfully. So here we have our film ID, our film name, and our film year. All right, so don't worry about the precision in terms of the display. We can fix that using a better option to display the data. But the important thing is that the data is coming out, right? So thank you for viewing, and that's how we view the data from the database. All right, so in our next session, we will look at how we go about searching for specific records and also how we go about updating. Thank you.